Hello, guys. Welcome to Bears Boldly Go, where we're discussing Strange New Worlds episode 2 and 3. Episode 2 is Children of the Comet, and episode 3 is Ghosts of Illyria. Spooky.
Very spooky. Doing two at the same time because we just didn't have time last week to record a
First
single
off,
one for episode 2.
Children of the Comet is a horror-centered episode.
I wonder if we're going to get Mass Effect style individual character episodes.
I think we are. It does feel like we're getting kind of character-centric episodes with these two.
Which I have no issue with whatsoever.
No. I mean, I think traditional Star Trek kind of does that as well, to be fair.
It does, yeah. I mean...
You'll have your characters who are the star of that episode. Like even watching Voyager, you'll have your Harry Kim episode, you'll have your B'Elanna episode, that kind of...
I think just because this is like at the beginning of this show, at least. And obviously some of these characters are established characters in a limited manner. Obviously, Spock, we know Spock
do think
fairly
that
well.
First episode did such a good job of setting the dynamic of our face crew.
Yeah.
That it can pull it off.
Oh, 100%.
Also, this episode starts on dinner in the captain's quarters. They seriously shrink for quarters down by the time Kirk gets his ship, don't they?
Yeah, well, I think it's a significantly larger crew by the time that Kirk gets it.
So more space to... But that was more a Jess, that wasn't a continuity nitpick for all those people out there. You know who you are.
But then I think there's also potentially an escalation of issues with the Klingons and the Romulans by that point. So it might be that the ship is slightly more military-centric.
It's proof that this has to be a different timeline.
No, it isn't, James.
No, you're right. No, it isn't. And if you subscribe to that thought, go touch some grass or whatever the kids say these days.
Yeah. In the end as well, like, Kirk really just needs a bed because he's either going to be sleeping or shagging. Like, whereas...
But this is a... They're cooking, like, rib steaks for... Like, there's whole racks of ribs on the go. Like, this is a full-on...
barbecue going. Like, and I like that. I like that, because this... I like... It's almost a reference to early Deep Space Nine, in a way, because, like... at that point, obviously, replicators exist, whereas at this point, replicators don't. And so Ben Sisko, who's an avid cook, his father owns a restaurant. He's just like he needs to retrofit his quarters on Deep Space Nine to have the ability to physically cook something. And it sets the fire alarms off. Security end up coming, and all sorts. So I thought it was a nice little kind of twist all the way back round to like a more. I don't know.
I'm liking.
I don't want to say human, but I like a someone that you can empathize with, and not just like the more militaristic captains.
Ortega's tricks her into showing up in informal wear.
Yeah.
And it's a casual event. And I like how casual clothes are looking. We haven't seen much casual clothes in new Star Trek yet.
No.
And I guess Lower Decks we probably have, maybe. But
yeah, but I suppose
Lower Decks is also beholden to emulating a certain TNG aesthetic. It
also, with Lower Decks, because it's a relatively simplistic art style as well.
But
you've got you like seeing
I like that
definitions.
Clothes seem what people like to wear, and not like they've wandered in from some Ren fair somewhere, like civilian clothes tend to look in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like somehow it's
Yeah.
like what we've got so far into the future, and aesthetic is medieval.
Yeah.
Like,
Although in fairness to like say TNG, like there was that baggy look in the 80s and
yeah,
then in the early 90s that like actually it looks a bit weird now, but it wasn't necessarily that far removed from what was maybe in at the time. And then of course like in TNG as well, you literally had the ability with replicators to just wear whatever the hell you wanted to.
yeah,
Like, whereas I suppose in Strange New Worlds era, there would be a limit to what you could get your hands on, realistically. It would be that thing of maybe it is a touch more practical, like we might wear now.
yeah.
Like it might just be some general
Thing
casual
is,
wear that you
I
could.
do think it feels futuristic. Like you see
Yeah.
what like Nurse Chapel is wearing and things,
Mm,
and it. But they quickly discover a comet hurtling towards a planet.
mm.
So they try
Well,
and
they're on a mission to observe it anyway
yeah,
because it's a well-known comet that travels through space. But they come to the cataclysmic realization that it's going slightly off course and
worth
it's going to
noting.
hit this planet.
Uh, if this was happening in Voyager, the stance would be Prime Directive got to let it happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's it's like because obviously it's General Order 1 at the moment, which isn't the Prime Directive, which means that like they can go, oh yeah, let's save this species. Like because there's a pre-warp species.
Yeah, this is
Um,
the stuff Tom Paris got demoted for.
yeah. Like yeah, how dare you save like several 100 million lives? Like
I
but
mean, it
yeah,
helps
it's a
that Jamie
pre-warp
probably gets a
species.
kick from an asteroid hitting the planet, but
Oh yeah, she's a murderer on the highest of levels. Like but yeah, I did wonder where it was going to go. Like in that, because obviously we're so trained by um, the Prime Directive now, as an audience, that our expectations
I would say this
are
is where the Prime Directive kind of hits logical. Like, no, the directive's gone too far. Yeah, if we have the capabilities to save them without them even realizing it, we probably should.
true. But then I suppose it's also that like kind of I can sort of see
No, the
why you
logic is
wouldn't.
if you're not even interfering, if you do it without them even noticing you've done it, you've not even really interfered.
But have you?
Morally, you should do this. You should. Like
Morally, yes.
I could get the
But
problem of introducing technology to a species that doesn't
mm,
have it yet,
yeah.
but like on the level of can we divert this asteroid that's about to destroy a planet and no one will be any the wiser? The answer is probably yeah. We probably should do that
Mm.
because as this episode goes to show, how do you know that wasn't destiny anyway?
Yes. Yeah.
Because they encounter a religious group who worships this asteroid and the path it takes, and it cannot be meddled with. Sounds almost
Because
like a Prime Directive.
mm, because what was hiding in that asteroid, James? Because it wasn't just an asteroid.
Big space robot.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It
You know
never.
your usual Star Trek magic.
Yeah. There was
Something intelligent.
in there. Something incredibly intelligent.
Because
Um.
Uhura has to learn how to communicate with it after it nearly kills Sam Kirk.
mm, which is it's her first away mission. We discover in this episode that she joined Starfleet more out of a
Sense of obligation than really any desire to be there.
I think it was also a sense of trying to get away from things because we find out the fate of her parents.
Yeah.
They unfortunately died in a shuttle crash, and she wasn't supposed to go to Starfleet. She was going to study in the university that her parents both taught in.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's too hard.
so, which was a beautifully delivered scene, I
It
thought,
was.
because obviously it was very sad, and yet the sense of camaraderie and also a lovely, delicate leadership from Anson Mount Pike
Yeah.
made her actually physically look quite happy.
And then you have Spock it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, maybe you should leave.
Maybe you should leave. If you don't want to be here, make room for those who do.
There's something about Ethan Peck Spock that you can tell he's younger.
Yeah.
There's an edginess to him that he hasn't temped down.
Yeah.
Like he's still going through like a bit of a human emo phase. Like there's a slight anger to him.
He's still quite brutal with his like Vulcan logic, isn't it? It's kind of like, yeah, well.
Yeah.
But there's but it's that, yeah, as you say, it's almost his human side is emphasizing the Vulcan side in a way.
Yeah.
He's like, put up with it. like
it is. Yeah.
It's very much a shit happens.
Like,
and
you can see how he becomes the mellower Spock we get, right? You can see how we get there, but we're not there yet.
I think almost with this one as well, like you can see that he becomes a mellower Spock almost out of logic. That it's almost the sense of like, well, I'm surrounded by humans and other species that have emotion and a certain level of camaraderie that Vulcans probably do have but try not to show. I may as well, like, it's more efficient for me to allow this assimilation into this society or this structure.
Yes.
Rather than fight against it. It's almost logic dictating, yes, okay, it's all right to smile.
Goodin does such a good job as a Uhura as well as with a like when we're on the asteroid with the self-doubt and the figuring it out, kind of finding the way.
She's another, I mean, to be honest, the entire cast.
Yeah.
Another great example of Star Trek going, you know what, let's just recast. And we'll recast.
Which
we won't even.
Is certainly better than digitally puppeteering things.
Yeah, because I think what they're also doing as well, and obviously it's quite different to the the JJ casting in in his Star Trek films.
Yeah.
These aren't necessarily, I mean, as excellent as the performances in the JJ films are, these are their own takes on these characters and how they're going to grow into these characters.
And I also think we're at the point where these characters are famous enough that we should just treat them like characters and not actors playing characters. You get me? Like, so someone, yes, can fulfill that role again. Like, this is how things go from being piece of entertainment for a set period of time to being piece of entertainment for centuries, right? Like, this is how, like, no one's getting around going like, what? They've recast Romeo and Juliet? How dare they? Like,
I think the thing is that, like, obviously with something like this, you do have the, like, obviously not continuity, but like, because this is the same Uhura as Uhura from the original series.
But
like, you've got to find that fine line of own interpretation and also how does it lead into.
But you're at the point where like you either, outside of Disney's experiments with whatever it is they're doing,
Mm.
and I have
Raising the
strong.
Dead. Yeah.
I've
Mm.
shouldn't say that, but I've strong
I mean,
thoughts on that.
they're going to try.
But have you seen they've just signed the deal to for Stan Lee's likeness?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna get lots more Stan Lee cameos. But it's kind of like if you're gonna be telling a story with these characters, and that's not something you're gonna be doing. And at that point with Star Trek, you'd have to do a lot of it. It won't just be one character. You'd have to. At this stage, like you either recast or you just don't have a character. There isn't there isn't really an option in between.
I think what I really like about the casting choices is that they haven't necessarily gone for people who look like the actors and actresses that they're replacing.
No.
They've found good actors who can play the part.
Yeah.
And obviously, they've gone for the correct racial background and what have you, so that it's not like they're not just suddenly like changing something, but they've not gone too far in saying, oh well, we need to find someone who looks exactly like or sounds exactly like, or like when obviously the news that there was a Solo film getting made, a Han Solo film. There was all that online buzz about, oh, it should be this guy that does an incredible impression that was on YouTube and blah 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 blah.
You want someone who can get to the spirit of the character, not do an impression of a previous actor who got to the spirit of a character.
Yeah,
Han Solo is a character, not inherently Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is very good at playing Han Solo, but Han Solo exists outside of him. Even more so when you consider like the Clone Wars characters.
Yeah,
they've had different voice actors play them. For Obi-Wan Kenobi's had 3 actors at this point. Maybe 4, definitely 3.
Yeah,
and that's not even count people who potentially voice these characters in video games over the years as well. But no one really bats an eyelid at this. Well, you can't get Ewan McGregor wasn't going to do a stint voicing several seasons of animation now, was he? So
not with the way he was feeling after that film.
I'm just saying why people don't flip like they would for people can accept that, but they won't accept it. And it's like, well, like they're characters.
It's just,
I would have much rather they found someone like actually. The guy who did most of the work as Tarkin. Why not just let him play Tarkin instead of them crafting a Peter Cushing over him? And even that's being used in a very small, limited capacity.
Yeah, you see, I didn't mind that because it was such a limited thing. It was like, all right, fair enough. It's not he's a nod to a character that's going to appear in what would be the next film.
Yeah.
In that series with the positioning of Rogue One. So I didn't have a problem with that.
But we're digressing here anyway.
Oh yeah. But yeah.
Back on track. I did love when Pike asks for some fancy piloting. Ortega's like, oh, the Ortega's maneuver.
Yeah.
Oh, they named the maneuver after themselves already.
Yeah.
But It was a great episode, but moving on to episode 3, Ghosts of Illyria.
Which, for me, personally, favourite episode so far.
This is a classical everyone gets sick on the ship episode.
Which you've got to have in a Star Trek show.
Yeah, usually about this episode as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what the hell's going on this time?
We have some massive revelations. That we did a really good job of, eking out. I think. Yeah. Because you don't realize when it happens, you don't get what's happened.
Yeah.
You could easily mistake it for being part of what's going on everywhere else.
Yeah.
But first off, they're looking at a planet where a colony of Illyrians have gone missing. Illyrians are banned from the Federation because they genetically modify themselves.
Yeah, they're humans that
They're not humans, are they?
I think they are.
No, they are an alien species that genetically
Oh,
modifies
they are
themselves.
Yeah,
But they're banned from joining the Federation because because of humans and what happened with Khan and everything, has a kind of a general order ban on genetic modification.
Yeah.
Which raises a whole weird question, like, what do you call it when you change your face to look like an entirely different...
It's temporary, isn't it?
It is, but
Yeah.
it's arguably genetic modification.
I mean, it is. I mean, obviously, when they did it on that first episode, it was literally genetic modification. It wasn't that they just put some prosthetics over the top.
Yeah.
Because they had to go through certain DNA detectors. They needed to have their DNA temporarily masked.
We find out how Asing is related to Khan, just a descendant.
Yeah. Mm.
And but there's a moment in where you see it's rather meta. Like on the planet, number one is gonna go and get Spock, and Pike's like, no, I'll do it. And you tell it's because Pike knows he has plot armor. Like Pike is someone who knows he has plot armor.
Yeah.
I can't die right now, so I may well go get him. I'm not at risk.
Yeah.
And you see him make that decision.
Yeah.
And he goes to get Spock, and Storm's hit. They managed to get everyone up, but something maybe went wrong with the transporter. And everyone starts getting addicted to light. And it is where this is if we talk about focus episodes, this is a number one episode. Why Pike and Spock are stuck down below. She has to figure out what's going on and get a cure for everyone. And she starts suffering in her quarters. And this thing happens where she flares up. And we just assume
it's something to do with the
illness.
What the illness, yeah.
And she goes and gets herself tested, and you kind of think, oh, maybe she's just pretending she hasn't got it because she's got work to do. And you kind of have this suspicion all along, like, well, what's going on with her? Something not
quite right.
Like when everyone else starts coming down with it. I love the moment where Uhura doesn't come down with it, and she takes it to quarters to figure it out. It's like, oh, you were in bed with your light shield up. So we realise this illness passes via.
I like that she's a lower decker.
Yes.
I loved that. I like with all the grand opulence that we were just talking about with Pike's massive barbecue hut, and yet they still have lower deckers for like. So I like that we
also,
get to see the lower deck.
I don't think we mentioned it for the last episode, but we should have because that's where he was introduced. But he's even larger presence in this one. I absolutely love
the chief engineer.
Yes.
Yes, the not quite Andorian. I can't remember the name of the species.
Same planet, aren't they?
They're from the same planet. They
Hemmer is the character's name, played by Bruce Halleck. So good.
That species is only ever seen in Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that any of the Enterprise exclusive species have ever been seen in any other Star Trek.
Well, isn't it aren't Illyrians from Enterprise as well? Pretty sure they are.
Possibly, but yeah, it's the first time that any Enterprise exclusives, because I think you get reference to the Xindi in others.
Yeah,
you get reference to a few others. Like there's that. I would love to see a few more. I know that the actor who played Dr. Phlox turned down the opportunity to be in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know why.
I do with Hemmer though. I do just like how pissy he is.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like he's a proper grumpy chief engineer, as they probably should be. Like it's like um he's everything that probably should have been from like a really grumpy Scotty when he
Yes.
became chief engineer.
We
Although
also
obviously he wasn't originally the chief engineer. So
get Mbanga back this
yeah.
episode, and he there's something suspicious going on there as well.
Yeah.
Nurse Chapel remains to be extremely charming.
Mm.
But yeah, we discover as this episode goes on that Una Chin Riley is a Illyrian.
Mm. Which is a revelation at the end. Because
It comes I'd say it comes earlier than the end.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
because it's what
it's
what cures for crew, isn't it? Because
Eventually.
they have a debate about like and the doctor's like, I don't care what you are. If your blood will cure people, I will use your blood to cure people.
Yeah.
She stops the engineer from warping on the core of a planet.
Yeah.
And that's a moment where it cemented, okay, something's definitely weird here, was when after like she phases him out, she just casually lifts him up over her shoulder and kind of wanders into
I really like that sequence because it's just badly enough done with the stunt doubles and the obviously very light dummy that they've put over Rebecca Romaine's shoulder, that like it feels like a very deliberate nod to what would have been the production quality in the original series, like because they could have hidden it better. With all of the slick Star Trekkiness that they've got going at the moment, they could have hidden it better, and they didn't. And I really appreciate that.
And then she also has a fight with Lan Noonien Singh, which is because she's also sick and she's trying to open the warp core to get out the light in there, but also she's pissed off that because she's overheard that number one is an Illyrian, and because of her upbringing, she doesn't
she was bullied.
Yeah, she was one of the people even thinking she may have been
augmented.
That the idea that her hero is
a letdown. Like it's heartbreaking. But
at the same time, number one can't help who and what she is. Like
no, certainly not. In the same way that Singh can't either. And I think there is an allusion there to potentially Singh does have a little bit of the leftover enhancements left.
I mean, it's also stated that
she puts up a good fight.
Yeah, but she's also chief of security, so she should be able to put up a good fight.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, there's a very deliberate line where number one says that was one hell of a punch.
See, I didn't read that myself, but
I mean, I think it's possibly. I mean, the thing is that, like, realistically, it's only about 200 to 50 years removed from, because I mean, obviously, like, the Khan project starts at the end of Picard season 2, which is in 2024.
No, arguably it had already started.
For
it to be named after Khan himself would have had to have existed at that point.
Yeah, because he was probably a soldier that volunteered.
Yeah, but
volunteered.
We're getting into the weeds here.
But either way, I mean, there's only a couple of hundred years, so realistically, she's maybe only 5 generations removed. So she might be ever so slightly stronger than she appears.
But you get this moment where she points out that the Illyrians, we don't do this out of. We're not augmenting ourselves for the same reason. They augment themselves for arguably a noble.
They're not
we're not trying to conquer the world with these augments. We just try and match the planet we go to. It's like we peak like Prime Directive. Like, we don't want to we don't want to interfere with the planet we land on. So rather than altering a planet to our needs, we alter our needs to match the planet. Which, is like, yeah, fair enough, actually. That's a perfectly good reason to augment yourself. Like, oh, we want to land on this planet and the oxygen's slightly different. Let's change how much we need to breathe rather than destroy this perfectly fine planet.
Which could potentially have its own life starting at some point anyway. Like, so...
And obviously on the world, Pike and Spock discover that the Illyrians wanted to join... The Illyrians on this planet wanted to join the Federation, and they were stripping themselves of their ornaments to join. And that's what led to their death in the storms. Their lives are saved by the literal ghosts of Illyria. Because, Star Trek is full of magic. Pardon? No, it's clear they live in the storm.
Yeah. They became par wraiths.
Unless we want to believe that they are genuinely ghosts, they live in the storm.
Yeah. They looked very much like. At some point, I thought, are they going with par wraiths? Is this going to be like tying back to DS9 with that? Like,
no, they've just evolved, haven't they?
They're just space ghosts.
Yeah,
and not the Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
And obviously, Pike accepts. Number one goes to resign, and Pike's like, "Not on my watch."
Yeah,
I'll deal with the Federation.
Yeah.
And we discover that this all happened because the Doc is keeping his sick daughter in the pattern buffer of a medical transporter.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the first episode and why you wouldn't let Thingy use it, and she had to run all the way to the deck. I didn't catch that when I was watching it, but
foreshadowing.
Yes, so his daughter is very ill, and he's keeping the pattern buffer because she can't die while she's in there.
Because she has a matter of weeks to live, and of course, like as he rightfully points out, he's the chief medical officer on Starfleet's flagship ship, and he can't do anything. He, in theory, should be one of the greatest medical minds in the universe.
Yeah.
He's helpless, and it's beautiful, it's tragic, it's wonderful,
and you get the mirror.
You feel like there might be some hope, maybe.
You get the mirror of a Pike number one scene as well, where again he's assuming like, okay, well, I guess I've got to resign. You're gonna kick me back to Starfleet. Could you give me some time with my daughter beforehand? And she's like, no, we'll hook up a dedicated power supply for you.
Yeah, get you some more juice, so it'll never run out. So,
and it's compassion, isn't it? It's empathy. Which is what Star Trek at its core really should be about.
And it's. I mean, as we've discussed before as well, it's really what the Starfleet and the Federation should be all about. It's what the discussion in seasons 3 and 4 of Disco are.
Well,
and it's where it's at this point in time where Starfleet becomes that thing.
Well, I think what's nice about the idea of Star Trek is that it's showing us a future that could be if we work for it, but also showing us that if you achieve it, the work doesn't
end.
No, like you have to work to keep it. You have to, like it, and things will crop up that threaten it, whether it be internally, like your own prejudice against augmented people, or whether it be external. But once you've achieved utopia, not that it is a utopia, but
no.
But once you've achieved this ideal way, you can't just be like, okay, work done. Like the work doesn't stop.
The thing is, it's a very real like thing that's happened to the United Kingdom and to the US in the last.
Yeah, it does feel like we
15
almost achieved what we thought was a good, like progressive future way of being, and then we're just like, well, I guess our work's done, and it's like, oh no, we've slipped back.
We've reached a level of apathy, like we reached a level of laziness, and obviously in both countries we voted in.
And it's worth noting that I think where we would see that, we would, people like me, you might assume like, oh, we've reached a modern progressive way of living. The truth is, for people who don't look like me and you, or aren't like me, that isn't necessarily or ever has been the case. Really, it's just an assumption on our part, and then the apathy that leads to
like even geographically, like obviously, you know, there's always, unfortunately, always racial and sexual prejudice and what have you. But even geographically, like especially in our country, as tiny as we are, really small little country, like the difference between the north and the south can be drastic.
Well, we also still have a very encroached class system, don't we? That's for
which people seem to be clamoring to strengthen at the moment, and it's just
But
so
I am, however,
we
going
need
to
more
have
Star Trek.
I am going to have to
in our lives.
Bring us to a wrap because I am going to have to go.
Yes, I believe you're off to see your nan.
I am, yes. So
Yes.
on that note, guys, have a good indeterminate amount of time till we see you next time, because we're slightly less regular with these at the moment, but you will get more from us.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I'm hideously busy. I'm moving house this week. So I will continue watching Star Trek on time, and I'll try and record it on time.
I think maybe we just for ease of use, we'll do 5 and 6 together, 4 and 5 together as well.
Probably.
Just give us it just gives us a bit of time.
Yeah. It might not be. Live long and prosper, everyone. Have
See you soon, guys.